In this episode, I sit down with John Schaefer, the owner of the Granite Shop, and we talk about everything from his early days when he first opened his countertop business to the lessons he learned along the way after over a decade of running it, how he gained a lot of his freedom, and then John really shares the transformation that he enjoyed as a result of enrolling in our 90-day growth engine program. Things like really seeing the needs from his team, like answering all the questions, helping them make decisions and figuring out and solving problems, eliminating 70% of that overnight through implementing one specific tool that he gained access to in our program. He also shares how he landed more than 60 jobs in about 4 to 6 weeks. Some of that came from adjusting his strategy on his social media from the organic side of his efforts to how he learned as somebody who's never or wasn't even aware that there was a back end to Meta, to following our playbooks, to launching his first lead generation campaigns and landing over 100K in projects from spending as little as $1,000. So there's a lot of good stuff we get into in this episode. There was some audio challenges we were having, some distortion, some echoes, but if you can look beyond that, I think you'll find this episode really valuable. All right, guys, let's jump into it. All right, so John, if you could share with me how long you've been in the stone game.
Right at 13 years this year, I believe. Actually, last
Great.
month was shooting about 13 years. So
Nice. And how did you first get started in the stone industry?
I was in the construction industry to start, and that kind of opened my eyes for the need, the lack of availability in my area and stuff. And so it started as a conversation, and that grew real quickly. So a year later, we were rocking and rolling.
Who was that conversation with?
My dad, yeah, he was also a
Okay.
contractor. We worked together. So.
And what was like the deciding factor that was like, okay, I'm going in.
Oh, Facebook Marketplace. You hear about these marketplace guys. I'm that guy, and uh, scroll up Facebook and saw just a whole bunch of equipment for sale, and I was like, "Hey, look at this!" And then 2 days later, we're driving to Tennessee to buy it. And we'd found a building in 2 days, and it's just uh, it all went really fast. Just a random conversations.
Crazy. I didn't know that part. That's great.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
Facebook market, like 10 o'clock at night in bed. It's just like,
but yeah, that's me. Yeah.
what was the equipment that was for sale that you bought?
Oh, it was rough. It was a tilt table that had like a four-wheeler winch to tilt it, and a blue ripper,
Oh my God.
old an old junky forklift with no brakes, man. And that was me. I did it at that point. I was a one-man show. I had buddies and family and everyone else that would come help me install. But for my first year, I was a one-man show.
God. With no brakes. Oh my gosh.
It
I
was
bet you got
other shops called me, the caveman over there. They were like, he's never gonna make it. So
Oh my God. I love that. This is amazing. This is stuff that we actually hadn't talked about. Now where the Granite shop sits now, what are you guys running machine wise?
we run 2 5-axis CNCs, a line polisher.
You've come a long way.
Yeah.
So you still have that forklift? Just like you should bronze it, but we just have it like in the corner, like a monument. Whereas,
Yeah, I still have that old sketchy tilt table out back, and I've taken some of the newer guys and be like, "Listen, if y'all can't operate what we have now, we can always go back to this. Y'all don't understand how good you've got it."
I love that. I love that. What going back, like if you were to go back in time, what's one thing you wish somebody would have told you? Maybe some people did tell you some stuff before you got started.
I would say the term working on your business and not just in your business. I probably spent my
Right.
first 8 years just grinding in the business, just trying to get the next thing installed. I never focused on building the business. And then as soon as I made that mental switch there, that's when we really started growing. So
Mhm. So the last 5 years or so.
yeah.
What was the what was like, how did you make that switch? Like to start to buy back time and make that switch so that you weren't stuck in the weeds?
I went to an expo and went shot some shop tours, things like that, and just started seeing like how the other people were doing things and how they were like, talking about their roles and what they're doing on growing their business. Just things I never really thought of. Thought
Mm,
kind of got me here.
awesome, awesome. In your experience, so 13 years now, what's been the hardest part of running a shop? I guess that also that's a loaded question because it's probably changed, right? Hardest
Yeah,
day
well,
one,
yeah, we could do
breaks.
this all. We could do this all day.
Yeah, yeah, and you get to like the luxury now is you get to choose your heart. But I guess 13 years is a long time to pick, like one thing, but maybe what are some of the things in those different stages
I would
that would be most
probably just developing myself from just being a fabricator, and contractor to, a manager and business owner. Uh, I wasn't a business owner or a manager when I started this, and that's something I've had to develop, uh, learn how to do and what I was doing wrong.
what would you say that some of those things would be in terms of that you feel like you were doing wrong at the early days?
Micromanaging. um, I don't know. I mean, just before we were just trying to, I had that mentality of just, just grinding, just trying to get jobs done. We didn't really making plans or
Yeah, yeah, I got you. That um, if you could go back, so I know the other question I asked you was what do you wish somebody had told you? But now, if you were to go back in time, those first few years, what's the one piece of advice you would have given yourself?
work on the business, not in it. I mean, obviously, but yeah, I mean, take some risk. I played a lot of things safe. I think I undervalued, our capabilities a lot of times, and I think I probably held the business back by doing that. But you're gonna have to really put
Right.
yourself out there, take the risk, to grow as needed.
I like that. Um, and what would you say is the thing that you love the most about the business today, where it stands now?
Today is I've got a lot of freedom. I've got a exceptional staff that we built over the last few years that really run and manage things really well. Take a lot of ownership, so that allows me to kind
So
of do this with you and do your programs and have a personal life, and not just be stuck in the business, working in the business all the time.
yeah, definitely. Awesome. So yeah, with that in mind, I think I actually don't have the note here, but I think it was March that you joined the 90-day growth engine program. It was sure
February or
shortly
March, yeah,
after we met at Tice, or very briefly. You went out there. That was your first time attending, right?
yeah,
And you're on the same plane, actually. A
yeah.
long delayed flight. Yeah, getting over there. Not we didn't know that till after. Um, so before joining the 90-day growth engine program, what was the business like at the Granite shop? I know you had already, gained quite a bit of freedom. And then if I'm getting, this right, recapping it, looking to take the business to the next level. And I think the priority being to like keep your freedom that you had gotten. Um, but maybe in your own words, you could share where you were at, when you
Yeah,
got to Tice.
I think we were at the point we had put a lot of the right people in the right places, and we had really grown to a place we wanted to be, but we didn't have a lot of structure to it. Uh, you know, and that's something that we was really able to do through your program was a little structure, decision matrices and marketing and things like that. Having an actual plan, just not pulling everyone rushing to get to a goal all at the same time, without any kind of structure or plan to it.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, a lot of I think one of the main things that people have shared, aside from, "Hey, now we get consistent leads," or something like that, consistently is clarity and confidence. And I always would overlook that, but then it was like a reoccurring theme of what people would share when we recap like this clarity and like what the game plan is and what the next thing to do in the sequence, and then the confidence is in the action plan and the tools. But what were some of the main issues you were facing when you first joined, you were looking to solve?
We didn't, I mean, go back to we didn't have a true plan, like you say, and marketing. We had never taken the time to learn, you know, the backside of meta and things like that. uh, uh, using a CRM, use gain customer information, stuff like that. But I never even learned any of that stuff. So uh, there was a lot of things that we kind of knew, but you didn't know that you didn't know that we was able to kind of bring it all life to get into the business or your business.
It was almost like a bit of a leap of faith. We didn't know exactly the journey you were going on. You knew the outcomes you wanted to get when you joined. And then things like the sales engine and needing a CRM were revealed, along the way. Like, hey, if you really want to legitimize your sales process, CRM is really going to support that. So I get what you're saying in terms of, in some cases, you didn't know what you didn't know, for sure. All right, maybe we'll just kind of jump into what were some of the early on moments when you realized, hey, this is going to actually work?
The decision matrix that to me that made a massive change in just the structure of our front office. As I told you before, when I started this, I did have a lot of freedom because I had a lot of really good employees, but a lot of them lacked the confidence, or maybe not even the confidence. They lacked me presenting them with everything they needed to make decisions without me. I was still holding on to a lot of that kind of power, maybe subconsciously. But we rolled out the decision matrix, and that helped me just as much as it did them. Gave them a process of when to ask me questions or how to answer things themselves. And it also made it apparent to me that I needed to give them that authority and power and room to make mistakes and succeed.
I'm curious, have you tried to look for other tools like that? Because I know I have. I know other program members have. If you go back to the 4-hour work week, I'm not sure if you read that book, the, you know, old classic by Tim Ferriss, is like, okay, if it's a more than $100 decision or issue, like if it costs more than $100 to solve this problem, then come to me. If it doesn't, just make the decision. But in the stone game, things are a little more complex than that. And it's not always easy to know how much something is going to cost, or you should just do this. I'm curious as to your experience trying to find other solutions, what you might have tried before that.
My uh, Before this, I had never even considered the process of the decisions. Prior to this, we've had conversations in the management area of rolling out decision matrices to fabrication area, the installers, find ways of integrating that to them as well.
Yeah.
So
Got And I think if memory serves, you shared before, um, that overnight, because we went through it live, you printed it off, you had it posted in every office, taped there, which now we get everybody to do. Now, I used to run an on-site in Texas last week, and we went over it live, and we said, you got to tape it to the wall. And then at the end of the day, when we closed out, myself and the business owner were kind of walking through, everybody had kind of tucked them. One was tucked in like a little file folder. Somebody else had flipped it, a little pile of stuff on the desk. So we went around after, made sure they were all taped up right there, by the phone, by the computer monitor. But after you did that, I think you told me it was like 70% of the demands and issues that used to just boil up to you went away overnight. That's still accurate?
yeah, it's definitely accurate. And employees even made the comment to me that they didn't even realize that they were passing on so many decisions that they could be making. It was just the way I have trained them when they first started. It was in the thought. So it opened up their eyes to how much they were asking of me at the same time that I was asking them, to make their own decisions. So
Yeah, it's like kind of it's a byproduct of, we train people. So we invest all this time, energy, and download into them our expertise. And then it's only natural they would keep coming to us, right? It's like an apprentice. And they're going to naturally look to the teacher for those answers. So there needs to be a time where you kind of cut the umbilical cord, so to speak, right? And then, having a really, and that's a tool we designed for you first, would never existed before in our program. We're like, okay, this is one of John's main problems. And we hadn't found something that worked really well before. So design that. Full transparency, I think on Tuesday. And then we had the call on Wednesday. I was like, John, will you test this out? You did. Great results. And now I've used it for all of our one-on-one engagement clients that have had great success with it. Program members, other ones in the group that have had success for it. So you were the first guinea pig on that one for it to work so well. Um, awesome. Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to dig into later. I think maybe I'll jump into some of the two other main results that you had. I'd love for you to be able to share on that because I think so many, not just stone companies, but anybody in the surface industry, whether that's flooring or tile, even millwork company, on social media, the content that's posted is, I would say, I don't know if we came up with a percentage, but the majority is install photos or videos, maybe some behind the scenes of the machining going, and then, there are some accounts that post like entertaining stuff, like, hey, let's throw the measuring tape to the next employee and they're there and they introduce themselves. That's kind of like what I see the most of. Um, if you could share what the change and the shift was that you made in your social media content approach from that training we did and what the outcome was. I think I have a rough number of how many projects came from that in the first 4 to 6 weeks. And I'd also like to hear, just where that is now.
Yeah, I was, probably the most area you pushed my comfortability on that was coming personal on social media, putting me on there, my family on there, putting a face to the business. Before that was me, we posted shop pictures and install pictures. We still do that, but we also, back to, making a true plan. We did a personal angle campaign and I was skeptical on it, but it really took off. We had thousands of reactions on it. Worked out pretty well. We're still running that campaign today.
Oh yeah, that's the paid one. Yeah. So I'd love to dig into the marketing machine and the paid campaign that's still working. And it's when we dig into that, I don't want to say that you could run that one forever. Like really, there should be an evolution to that. But if it's not broke, don't, right? Like, hey, it's still producing. And we've had clients in the past that were long campaign for 7 years. It's still cooking, but that's not always the case. What I was wanting to dig into first with your organic social media, and I think you made that switch after taking a more corporate approach, featuring the team. You did some different things and telling the story a little bit and putting your voice and personality there. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's why I usually like to capture these right after they happen. So I have them in your profile. I've got the notes. I should have pulled it up here. I think it was 40 jobs you said you shared on the group coaching call. 40 jobs came in from just the switch of the organic social over 4 to 6 weeks. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, it was a huge number there at first. And of course, it leveled off a little bit. But at first, we had some areas of outside of our normal service area. There were some areas that we've been trying to get business in. So we really heavily focused a lot of those campaigns and ads in that area. And within first, month and a half, we had about 40 new jobs just when that area come in, which was pretty great.
Yeah, I think that's what you're referring to, 40 from, and maybe we're getting our wires crossed here, but we'll get them down in the show notes of the podcast, what it was. I'll go back and check the notes, but I think from organic, it was 40 on the 40 jobs in just about 4 weeks. I think this is what you shared in the group reach and you're sharing the wins. Now the marketing machine is a different animal. And so if I'm just sharing with the audience here, because not everybody is familiar with even really the difference. They just hear Facebook and Instagram, not really sure the difference. I'll break it down here real quick. It's just John first switched up his organic social media, approach and shifting from those install photos, which he does still do, but bringing that personality. And we're calling it the conversion content strategy, content that'll actually convert. And then putting his personality at the forefront of the brand, not just his, but the team's as well. And so that led to a lift in projects coming in, I think about 40 in 4 weeks. But the more exciting part, because organic is hard to control. So it's like, maybe we post more to get more jobs. Like how do we make that really work? And sometimes it just taps out. But that's where the marketing machine comes into play, where you're running paid ads. So just for people to kind of know the difference. So paid ads is on Meta and the placements are Facebook and Instagram. And John, I think what you were just sharing is you were skeptical, hesitant to put you and your wife, in this personal angle campaigns. What's the first campaign we have everybody start with for a couple of reasons? One, it doesn't rely on video. Not everybody's comfortable on video. Number two, everybody has selfies. Well, almost everybody, everybody's spouse has selfies in their phone, right? On vacation, at a restaurant, at a cafe, at a family event that you can use. And people are often shocked that they don't have to put countertops, new flooring, or tile in the ad, and it's going to perform very well. So that's what you ended up doing. And if you could just share, I believe that just your experience maybe in going through that, because correct me if I'm wrong, you had never been in the back end of Meta before and had to follow our playbooks to launch those ads. Maybe just chat a little bit about that experience and what were some takeaways or kind of eye-opening moments?
It was definitely eye opening. Just the and I would always just make a post on Facebook and then share it. Boost posts. I had no idea that there was that whole back end of Meta that I was missing out on. But just learning the process is, running test campaign, only seeing what content generates leads and what does it, and what headlines and content, word content is actually working, and running tests and then putting out the high producing content. To me, this is something I would have never thought of.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which is sometimes like you want to get those leads now and launch your campaign really quickly. But we start off with testing first and several different elements. And so it takes a couple of days. But like from after you got the plumbing of this for like Meta setup, once you started from testing and learning to launching your campaign, I never did ask you that. How long did that take? I roughly know.
Um, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, okay. Go through that whole process.
Well, okay. So from start to finish, getting in there and learning all the way through to launching.
Yeah.
Okay. Two.
Which some of the stuff, we were putting a little bit of content out there and then giving a few days to test. So
Yes. Right. Yeah. The testing window and then launch the next test. And so what was you gave me a number. Actually, I just launched today and published a case study. You're not on, you didn't even know we had a podcast and now you're on it. But it just happened to be the schedule that got today of me sharing your case study. But now we're doing the live version. So I had to check my notes on that. But you set your budget at $1,000, right, for the first campaign. And that's just for people listening to this, that's a good number to start with. Less than that, hard to generate leads. More than that, you haven't really validated yet. And it's like going to the casino a little bit. You don't want to put $5,000 on black and then just, lose it all. So $1,000. And then if you want to, you can scale it up. And usually people, when they scale and they're, let's say a smaller shop, $3 million a year, they might scale to $100 a day. So it's $3,000 a month. And that's a good solid budget to really, once you know your cost per acquisition, like know how much it costs to acquire a customer. And you can then pull the levers when you really want to grow, depends on your market, to say, okay, we do need an extra 20 jobs a month, for Q4, let's try to start to pull that lever and spend more to acquire more of the market. So that's really the game that we want to play when you learn to install your marketing machine. So John, you started off at $1,000 and 4 weeks in, I think it had resulted in 20 jobs, average deal size. I didn't write down this math. It was like 4.5K. So it was roughly between 80K and 100K on that ad. Is that correct?
yeah,
And you haven't really touched that campaign since. Is that right? It sounds like not too much, right? It's running and you just let it run.
not too much. I mean, it's still generating. It's still, of course, it has kind of plateaued a little bit, but it's still generating good results. So it was going to run for a while.
Yeah, but we're due then to like do some additional tests. Um,
Yeah.
People can get what's called creative fatigue for like seeing your face, your wife's face over and over again, and just like switch up, create a little bit, test some new stuff. Like what I would say for anybody, kind of experimenting with this, you don't want to shut it down and just pull something new. The idea that John, adopted early on was to test what works. Now he's got something proven that works, and it will start to not have diminishing returns, but it won't usually perform as well as it did in the first 90 days, let's say. But the name of the game then is to beat the control group for what he has going now, testing new campaigns against it to see if you can beat it, but not turning this one off. Because ultimately, beating it means getting a lower cost per customer acquisition, which just means you can buy more customers for less money. So that's kind of the name of the game. But for some people, it's not worth the time. And they're like, this works pretty good. I'm just going to let this baby run until the wheels fall off. Totally, totally fine. What would you say now? Because we're several months on the other side of launching. What's the average amount of leads you get per month?
I'd say we're probably still bringing in, 8 to 10 a month off of it.
Okay. So it's gone down a little bit. Okay. And how many of those do you, just for everybody listening, there are people and you might have, well, you didn't even know there was a back end of Facebook. So maybe that was not the case for you, but a lot of people have either tried it, they've had somebody try it, they're in an association group or they've been to a conference and people are like, oh, I tried that and it works amazing. Or I've tried that and it sucks and it's a scam. Um, and it's like somewhere in the middle lies the truth. And so in your experience, there are definitely junk leads in there, right? Yeah, we talked about that early on that there'll be some junk leads in there and it's you got to kind of mine through them, let the sales reps know that they've got to kind of get through the junk, get through the no's, respond as quickly as possible to find the gold and the good one. Um, so what would you say in terms of like the effort that you guys put in, how many jobs you're converting now? I think at the beginning it was higher.
Well, I was saying we're probably pulling in, a successful job a week off of it. So
Yeah. And you haven't increased your ad spend yet, right? Still holding at 1,000?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be the name of the game is just increasing a little bit while watching to make sure that the cost per lead doesn't get too high. And then a job per week, is it still around the 4.5K, the quick turnaround jobs? Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So that's because that then what we'd want to do is look at the profit that you're getting overall, right? Obviously, that's not all profit. So some of that's profit. And then ideally looking at well, what small percentage of the profit do I want to take and reinvest in the marketing machine, which some people could look at just like, well, I'm going to just put an extra 500 or 1,000 from my credit card. But I kind of like to look at it like really planning. Is it 25% of the profit I'm going to put back in from just meta ads? And we get jobs from all sorts of other places, from contractors, et cetera, et cetera. But I'd love to see you go in that direction where you pick a percentage and that percentage can grow over time. And 6 months from now or a year from now, your budget will increase, but it'll have been paid for as a result of the ROI from the ads. And you're at 3K or 5K. And because of that, you can just fuel the marketing machine um, and turn it to 3 jobs a week. Right. And that's the game we want to play. I know you're quite busy right now. You've got commercial jobs. So that's what we're talking about. We want to have the lever. We don't always have to pull the lever. Right. It's not that like a lot of people would be like, well, John got, if it was on the upper end, 100K from 1,000, you'd be like, well, that's an insane ROI. Right. And why wouldn't he just put a ton more money into it? Not necessarily a good thing. There's a couple of things there. One, campaigns are hard to scale. When you put more money into it, it actually can break sometimes what's working in the campaign. And number two, John might not be ready for that level of volume in the shop right now. No, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, John. I'm just curious to hear.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we even talked about when I went into this, I was like, I'm not necessarily looking for more work. We have a lot of work. But it was just, planning for the work in the future was the thought of it, was planning for tomorrow and just keeping stuff coming in. So, uh, just kind of controlling
So
each
you can
job.
like even out. Some people are in the position where they really need more. While we didn't.
Yeah.
Evening out some of the gaps so that the production schedule can stay smooth, keep the guys busy. And I think what you said to me, though, is keep them busy, but not too busy. Quality of life, really important. You want to keep the team happy, thriving, and not strained.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. And the other thing I would say is it's just good that your name is out there and people will come in from other ways, right? They'll see the ads, but then come into the shop and it just helps as well on that end of things. Um, awesome. Okay. So, I guess the question to ask you would be like, how does your business feel now? What's sort of the difference compared to now? Well, you're well beyond 90 days ago. But if we were to just say, well, kind of from when you started to where you are now, and I know you've gotten a lot busier now and not as able to be as hands-on in the program as you were when you came racing out of the gates. And we're going to get your team more involved. But what's the main feeling or transformation that you would be able to share?
I think you hit it right with clarity. There's a lot of clarity throughout the whole business. Different people in different positions have clarity on their job or job titles, expectations, and then just the goal where we're all going. Before, I think we was just all rats in the race without, an understanding where we were trying to get. And I think just going through the program, we was able to be specific and provide a lot of clarity for everybody, which makes everyone's spot a little easier.
Yeah, totally. And then beyond the 90-day, you've started to do more advanced aspects of our growth engine. So you got in and did your core engine mapping. So we won't get into all of that now to explain what it is. Yeah, and there's other podcast episodes where I break that down in detail and people can follow along. But you got in there, you mapped all you acquire customers and how that moves through sales, and then operations or fulfillment to map that. We printed it on an 8-foot long piece of paper. That's because you put everything in one map. It was so long, but it would still be a pretty long piece of paper. And now you're in the process of identifying the key labels that need to be captured. Can you share just a little bit? I know we're still working on that, but what has that helped to provide aside from more clarity? And where do you see that role going as we work together on those next steps?
Well, even on the ops side, I think it made it really clear on like what playbooks, SOPs we need to start building out, integrating into our training programs. And we're actually in the middle of a tragedy day today. Our fab shop's not running back there. They're in the middle of an 8-hour training session. So, and we use that mapping as, a guide on, where to develop our training and stuff. So
Nice. Yeah, I know we're still at the beginning stages. One day we'll have a playbook. Awesome. And you're also with us, and we're working on it today, actually, on the shop optimization sprint. John is in the beta program that all the information you provided us, and then later we'll be giving you core metrics tracker. You'll be inputting things once a week. And that's really going to allow us to help you with machine utilization, might be inventory management, might be really looking at where the gaps are in the process, or even receiving materials, for example, where there's some issues now that if we dial that in, then later there'll be less challenges at production. So John's been willing to go through experimental stuff with us, and I look forward to being able to follow up with you at the end of the SOS, hopefully with, some more, wins, results, transformations in your business as a result of going through that. What's been the biggest breakthrough for you personally outside of the business, and some of the work we've done, and maybe on some of the coaching calls? I think I remember when we did our 90-day review that we didn't record for this, you shared that the coaching calls were like going to a mini conference.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that, biggest takeaway personally.
Well, I think every shop owner and fabricator knows, like, you go to the Stone Expo or Tice, you come back, you're fired up. You've been around a bunch of people that are just like you, and it's kind of a reset. And those Wednesday night Zooms is a little bit like that. You get in there and you see other people struggling in the same place you are, where you felt like it was just you. So it's nice, kind of a bit of a huddle with like-minded people. Brainstorm some stuff together, and then, go back into your job and you kind of refreshed and feel a little bit better about stuff you're doing. So
I love that. What's next for you in the Granite shop?
we're going up from here. We've got plans. We're looking at plans in the next couple of years of expanding, just onward and upward.
Onward and upward, man on a mission. What would you say for other shop owners that are thinking about joining the program, maybe listening to this podcast? What would you tell them?
I would definitely do it. I'd do it again. 'Cause, there's a lot of things, even if you've got the greatest ran shop, there's always room for improvement. There's always things that you don't know that you don't know. Uh, you can always dial things in to run more efficient. So
I love that. Awesome, John. I appreciate your time. I know that you're doing an 8-hour training and you're here with me. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll let you go.
appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Bye-bye.
Yeah.